What up, everybody? This is yours truly, Rama Screen, covering movies, TV, and entertainment. And by now, I'm guessing you all have watched this little independent film called Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. I'm kidding, of course. It's like a freaking $250 million budget, whatever. But it's already out since Thursday night, and it's raking in money like crazy. And so, because by now you've seen it, you and your grandma, that means we're gonna be doing spoiler talk. So there's no spoiler-free review. I was like, there's no walking around eggshells anymore. We're just gonna dive in, and I have a wonderful guest with me who accompanied me to the critic screening of Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker this past week. Ron Hunt, how you doing, Ron Hunt?
I'm doing great there, Rama. Again, I know I mentioned it there on my Instagram post. Thank you very much. But here in front of the internet and everybody else, thank you very much for that opportunity to go to a galaxy far, far away one last time.
Thank you. And what a wonderful outfit you're wearing right now. Is that Han Solo?
You're very close there, actually. This is my Chewbacca onesie because I'm a cheapskate, so I don't have my heat on, and this is the warmest thing I've got.
That's right. Me too. That's why I'm wearing my jacket. I don't have heater in my room, so we're in the same boat, my friend. Ron is the biggest Star Wars fan I know. I mean, if you at home think like, oh, I'm a Star Wars nerd. No, Ron Hunt is Star Wars nerd, right?
You know what? That I am. I mean, I'd like to think that I know the ins and outs of everything going on. Legends stuff, expanded universe, what we have currently is canon. Everything in between there, and so I'm glad to be able to lend an ear and lend a
So let's dive here to the first spoiler, and we're just gonna rip the band-aid. Rey is Palpatine's granddaughter. Let me tell you real quick, I kind of had an inclination that was gonna be what the direction that they're going with for Rey, because they introduced Palpatine at Star Wars Celebration. And this whole, since Force Awakens, like, oh my God, who's Rey's parents, And but the thing is, at least the film, Rise of Skywalker, even though it kind of gave us glimpses of her direct parents, and how, I guess they were butchered at one point, it was never a full picture of it. So let me ask you, Ron, what was your reaction to that reveal? Did you like it? Did you wish that it was more than just that?
Well, when it came to revealing Rey as the granddaughter of Sheev Palpatine, one of the things that really stood out to me was several years ago I read one of those Reddit threads where someone said, "What do you think is going to be the wildest possible explanation for Rey's lineage?" And one of those guys wearing a tinfoil hat said, "Oh, she's a Palpatine. Just you wait and see." And, well, crap on a crutch. It turned out to be Palpatine. I don't know what to say to that. One of the horrible things about our day and age is how easy it is to get spoilers for things. So my advice to anyone out there who isn't involved in the industry, such as Rama right here, is when your movies are coming around, maybe go dark for a month or two off social media. Spend time with your kids or your grandma, like you were saying, because somebody out there is going to guess that plot or spoil that plot for you, and possibly ruin the experience. But back to the task at hand here. How did I feel about the reveal about Rey being a Palpatine? Well, that would definitely explain her mastery of the Force. That would definitely explain the necessity to bring Palpatine back in here on Episode 9 to kind of sew everything up. I think it was a very pleasant reveal, because your Vegas odds were, oh, she's a Kenobi or she's a Skywalker, or even the child of Ezra Bridger and Ahsoka Tano. You know what I mean? There are all kinds of crazy names and things thrown out there, but nobody put any money on Palpatine. Well, guess what?
Yeah, go ahead.
500 to 1 on Palpatine. You made yourself some good money today.
Wait, I remember you and I had a small conversation right before the curtains go up and right before the screening started. And was your prediction spot on? Forget much of the chunk of what you said. I think we talked about Palpatine in our conversation. Was your prediction spot on?
It was my prediction when you and I were speaking there was pretty darn close,
Mm.
but I also went from far left. I went from that tinfoil hat area of,
Mm.
oh, I bet you she's a Palpatine clone, because I was talking about the clone Luke Skywalker from the expanded universe, how they took a part of his severed hand, cloned him, brought him forward from there. And
Mm.
so I thought, you know what? Why the heck not? Why couldn't someone have picked up a piece of Palpatine's finger and put that in a petri dish and made themselves a whole human being? And so with that,
Oh.
when they revealed the fact, and if I'm getting too far ahead, you cut me off right here, right now.
No
When
worries.
Pal revealed that he had made Supreme Leader Snoke, when they were talking about that, I thought, oh crap, I guessed it.
Oh, so see, these guys, viewers at home, this is why I had Ron on today because he read the books. He's so connected to the web forum with other Star Wars fans, whereas folks like me, we're just fans of the movies and that's it. So thank you so much for Ron for that knowledge. And you know what? I think the upside of that whole lineage reveal, by the end of the movie, uh, Ray adopted the Skywalker as Ray adopted Skywalker as her last name or as her family name. Like so it kind of like sends a message to the audience or Star Wars fans that like we all can be a Skywalker. It doesn't have
It,
to be by blood.
that is super cheesy, Rama. But you
It's
were
empowering.
it's empowering for sure. I mean, at the end of it, there it ends on an amazing note,
Mm.
and I mean, I'm not going to skip too far ahead there because I know we have plenty of movie to talk about there. 2 hours and like 20 minutes. So we'll make our way towards the ending a little later on, but I definitely feel that reveal was a good reveal. It was a very spot on one,
Yeah.
and for me, when Force Awakens premiered, I was in St. George, Utah, at a little backwoods movie theater, and maybe 30 people in there at the time, and we're watching it. And I remember, if you guys haven't seen that episode yet, too darn bad, because here's a spoiler for that.
Go ahead.
Han Solo dies. All right? And when that happened, the audience was quiet. And you heard me, maybe the third to last row on the right-hand side, go, son of a bitch! Nice and loud, because I was just was really shocked at what had happened there. And so with that reveal, I had one of those son of a bitch moments. Now, I even remember I took a breath, and then I said, no, I don't want Rama to look bad here amongst his peers. So I bit my tongue, but I can say without a doubt it was one of those
Wow.
type of moments.
Like a Home Alone type of moment. Got it.
I just shaved for the first time. I put on that aftershave, and oh, that burned.
Here's the thing too. Before we get to the next bullet point, as far as the Palpatine, as we're gonna try to make it to come to full circle. A part of me also feels like because we know that nobody ever really dies in science fiction, but I don't know. It just sometimes when I watch the film again, I'll be like, why? Why do they need to resurrect Palpatine? Like it kind of undermines our feelings about Palpatine from the previous films about how he his demise. It's like it downplays the whole thing. It just like poo poo on it. Did you feel the same way?
I don't think so. And this
It
is
just shits on it. Yeah.
this is a theory I'm going to give you here that comes from tinfoil hat land. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if you recall in, I think it's episode 3, where Anakin is speaking with Sheev at the time, and he mentions to him, do you know the story or the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise? And so, quick and to the point, Darth Plagueis was a Sith Lord who found a way to escape death. He found a way to keep going, in reference to how Palpatine spent that time saying, strike me down, and the Sith of the past will inhabit your body. I'm inclined to say that Sheev Palpatine is not actually Sheev Palpatine. Sheev Palpatine actually Darth Plagueis the Wise. So if you also look to Return of the Jedi, pardon me, Sheev asks Luke to strike him down. Why do you think he does that? So he has the opportunity to strike him down in anger and transfer the essence of the Sith before into the body of Luke Skywalker. Same way they're trying to do it now. Sheev is trying to get Plagueis is trying to get Rey to strike him down so he can inhabit the new body and continue living forward.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that, my friend. I guess that kind of softens or cushions the blow a little bit, because I was like, no.
A little wild, but if you're really that deep into the lore, really deep into everything that's going on,
yeah,
it's plausible. We're not going to say it's the truth, but it's plausible.
All right.
Until the notes write something that says to the contrary, I'm going to go plausible.
All right. The next thing I want to discuss here, and J.J. Abrams was at a Q&A screening for this film this past weekend, and apparently when he came out of that Q&A, he was asked by the fans, like, hey, what did Finn wanted to tell? What did he want to tell Rey that he never got to tell her? Like, oh, did he want to say that he loved her? But J.J. Abrams said no. Finn wanted to tell Rey that Finn is force sensitive. Apparently, that's the reveal this weekend, and that kind of bugged me a little bit. The fact that the movie never addressed that. It was like, really, you guys just gonna leave that hanging? So did that bother you? It kind of upset me a little bit. Like, why do you have that whole setup but never actually tie with a nice bow tie at the end? Like, what was he want to tell her?
So I don't know if that is entirely the case. I don't know if that's JJ just throwing something out there to mess with people. Entirely possible. But I am from the school right now that says, if you remember, he had mentioned that Leia knew that she was a Palpatine, that Rey was a Palpatine. Okay, I feel like potentially Leia entrusted that information to Finn, and that's what he was trying to get to her with the imminent death there. That, hey, by the way, you're a Palpatine. And they get sunk into the sand there. That's what I thought the big reveal was going to be. But if it's just that he's force sensitive, it doesn't make sense that he would hang on to the information.
I think I'm going to with your former theory that he just wanted to mess with our heads. He just wanted to mess with us.
I mean, it's like Elon Musk and his Cybertruck. Is it really going to look like that? Or is he really screwing with people? It's entirely possible. So, I mean, from the minds of someone who's creative there, why not have an opportunity to just, stick a little for everybody who's there asking him questions about things? I mean, why not?
Why not? And okay, we'll leave it at that. The next one, I want to pick your brain on this because it kind of went a little bit viral this past weekend. Apparently, I'm part of for the viewers at home, you guys know that I'm part of a film critics society. So studios sometimes would give us screeners, either links or actual discs, and then it's a for your consideration screeners. Oh, okay, it's a for your consideration screeners because it's award season. And so apparently for Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker, they've been marketing it around critics and Academy members. For your consideration, best screenplay, best director, best whatever, those categories. And then get to the best supporting actress. One of the names mentioned is Kelly Marie Tran. And everybody's like, what? she barely does a thing in this film. And so that's one of the things that I think upsets a lot of fans. Like, why did you as in Lucasfilm, go through the trouble of introducing this first Asian American girl, character, if you will, in The Last Jedi, only to sideline her, only to bench her the entire Star Wars of The Rise of Skywalker? And of course, this whole for your consideration thing, that's kind of like rubbing it in. Like, really? You're going to do that to her? Oh, hold on. Buffering. Okay. So, like, really? You're going to do that to her? You're sidelining her, and then you're going to, like, oh, yeah, for your consideration. So I think Kelly Marie Tran, unfortunately, her role in Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker was about as useless as Dominic Monaghan was. At least J.J. Abrams' other friend, Greg Grunberg, he got to die, in the next fighter. So he has his moment. He has his scene. So what did you think about this whole Kelly Marie Tran character roast thing? I feel bad for her.
What I mean, you and I were both Asian Americans.
Yeah.
And one of those things about that is, if you recall, I think this is in regards, or a response to, I should say, the backlash that she received. If you remember, she ended up like quitting social media and everything because of just negativity directed towards her.
That's right.
And so I think potentially here, Walt Disney, the company there, Lucasfilm, felt a little bad about their lack of damage control on that, because they didn't really say or do anything about that. Now, I don't want to necessarily say there's a burden on the company to protect the way the public sees an actor or an actress, or the way that they are being portrayed. That would be on the actor, the actor or the actress themselves. But I think this is one of those, how about this? Let's try to smooth this over with her by putting her up for consideration. Now, like you said, totally got benched for this movie.
Yeah.
Showed up a bit, she was in the background here and there. She had maybe a handful of lines you can count on one hand without using your thumb. You know what I mean? And hey, consider her for an Academy Award. It's one of those things. I mean, you're going to get some backlash for this next portion of the statement here, but it's like, when you imprison someone for attempted murder, right? Do you give a Nobel Prize for attempted chemistry? No, you don't. You actually have to do something, contribute something to the world as a whole there. And in all honesty, for the not the Last Jedi, I'm sorry, for the Rise of Skywalker, Miss Tran did not really provide anything. I mean, D.O. provided so much more than that.
Yeah. And so I don't know if that's J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio, those are the screenwriters, planned from the beginning, because maybe. But let's get right to the next bullet point, because it goes along with that. It seems that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. It seems that J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio wanted to clean up the mess from The Last Jedi. And then at one point they just we don't have any storyline for Kelly Marie Tran in this thing that we wanted to make. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, there's definitely, if you go with a knee-jerk reaction,
you
can definitely make the argument that, this entire movie was a fan service movie designed to undo everything we saw in The Last Jedi.
Exactly.
What do I want to say? Due to the very critical review of it by the fan base.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at the way this movie is doing versus The Last Jedi was very critically acclaimed, but the fans were not as big a fan of it. Pardon me there.
It's okay. I'll edit it. No worries.
Now, if you look at the way this movie is going, okay, critically, not as favored, but the fans really love it. So you can definitely make the argument that this was entirely, let me push my nerd glasses on my face, this is a very fan servicey type of movie, which in my personal opinion it was, but as a fan, thank you very much for that. It's a hell of a way to wrap everything up.
Yeah, I suppose so. Because I had conversations with other, not necessarily critics, but other people who watched the movie and they hated it. They say that the movie was so bad that it needed to cover up all that bad with fan service. Oh, look, Harrison Ford showed up. Hey, look, you remember this guy? Do you remember that guy? Oh, look, we're going to give medal to Chewie because Chewie didn't get medal the last time.
Oh, man. Right there, that's where that got me.
But what do you think about that? People are like, the ones that hate the movie is like, yeah, all these fan service are too overwhelming, and they're just there to put lipstick on a pig or sort of thing.
Oh, that one hurts just a little bit, but I can understand where it's coming from. I mean, the truth of the matter is this, okay? We have been waiting 40 years for the end of this story, okay? How do you fit 40 years worth of history, okay? This is what, 369, okay? This is the ninth installment of the series there. So I mean, you've got your prequel trilogy, right? And then you have the original trilogy. Then you have where we're at right now, okay? That's 8 other movies worth of information they need to sew up. Now, I suppose for the sake of planning, wrap up everything 4, 5, 6. Wrap it all up in 6, okay? 1, 2, 3, wrap it all up in 3 so they can stand alone. Right? I could understand that. But how would you do that? Since I'm not a screenwriter, I'm not a director. How would you wrap up the last 3, so 7, 8, 9, without paying proper homage, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3?
Yeah.
There's all these little bits and pieces in there that needed to be included in this movie in order for it to feel like a genuine conclusion to the Skywalker story. We're not just talking about burying the past in the sand in the desert. You know, we have stories, we have relationships, we have trinkets such as Chewie's medal. We have all these little things that people like myself or other really serious fans or even casual fans remember and connected with. And if you've ever watched any TV shows that have an ending that you just go, what the hell? Disney was doing its best to avoid that right now. Because, if I understand this appropriately, they're looking at moving away from the trilogy format and moving on to more one-shot style movies.
That's true.
So with that, I mean, you've got to wrap everything up. You have to. And so that's why Chewie gets his medal. That's why Rey goes back to the very first scene in episode 4 where she's standing there with the setting suns. That's why all of that stuff happens. It's required for them to wrap the story up in a neat little bow, regardless of whether or not you or I like it. You have to think of the majority of the fan base. While 10 people might not enjoy what they saw, 90 people are on their feet cheering, wiping tears, throwing flowers at the screen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to turn it to what side of the aisle anybody is on or anything of that nature. But the popular vote or the electoral vote, it's designed to give a best sampling of whatever idea. You need to come up with an original story. Rian Johnson was spot on. We need to continue there. Those other 90 people said, you better make sure that Chewie gets his medal. Damn it, he deserved it. You know what I mean?
I got you.
That's the group. That's the majority, and all of us. And I'm not speaking for the fandom. I'm not speaking for anybody else. I guess just for me. For me, I would gladly step over my mother to go watch that again.
All right, let's get to the other bullet points here before we wrap up. I gotta say about Leia, the way they use Leia scenes. Luckily for us, the fans, apparently the production had some extra Leia footage that they didn't use. So like, you know what? Let's insert this. And I think the way they place some of those scenes or footage in interactions with Rey and Greg Gernberg and Dominic Monaghan and the rest of the Rebellion team, it for the most part, it came off kind of organic. But there are parts, at least in my opinion, where Leia was just a fortune cookie Leia. She was just there to give, like, oh yeah, you can do this, you got this, like the force is with you. She's just there as a fortune cookie, like giving words of wisdom, and but that's all you could do, I guess, with the footage that you had. But it comes off as fortune cookie Leia, whereas in The Last Jedi, it was Mary Poppins Leia when she was like floating in space. so I still in the camp of, and there's only a few of us where we think like, you know what, you should have just left Leia out of this whole picture. Like, don't try to, wiggle her way in somehow. Let's respect her memory by just not including her in the Rise of Skywalker. But I get it now. Because it has to fit with Kylo Ren's ultimate demise at the end. They want to hit that emotional note there where Leia and her son both die. But what do you think about the whole Leia inclusion in The Rise of Skywalker?
Okay, edit that.
Yeah.
How I felt about Leia's inclusion. While I understand that our princess had passed away
Mm-hmm.
prior to the release of Rise of Skywalker, I definitely understand that there is the two schools of thought: let her rest or use what we already have.
Mm-hmm.
In the idea of using what we already have, I'm very curious how different the edit would have been for The Last Jedi if Carrie Fisher was still around to have filmed Rise of Skywalker. How would those scenes have fit in to what was going on for The Last Jedi? That's one of those things that you'll be up all night on.
Yeah.
But I feel that, yes, very fortune cookie-esque. Very fortune cookie-esque. Just, hey, Leia, what do you think? Insert catchphrase here. Hey, Leia, that's a great idea. Do you have any more wisdom for the fans? Insert sarcastic humor here. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That did kind of feel like that now that you point that out, and you're a jerk for pointing that out. Now you're taking away a little joy from me. But
You're welcome.
they could have written her out in the opening crawl.
Mm,
The opening crawl with all the Star Wars movies,
that's
you know
right.
what? It usually ends up writing a little bit of a jump about what may have happened here, here, and there, and this is why this is going on right now. You know, they could have written her out, but she deserved better. And I definitely feel that from a respect standpoint, they used what she had contributed beautifully. They gave her a chance to go out as one with the Force.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it was done very well and very tastefully. Now, if there was a scene with her doing the Charleston on top of a flagpole or something like that, I mean, that's terrible there.
Yeah.
It was like in Rogue One when they used Tarkin and
Oh.
Carrie there. Okay, I think that was done very well. It was done very tastefully. Now, if they had fit her in there with an impromptu lightsaber fight with Kylo Ren before he turns back, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Stuff like that's a little much.
Mm.
I think that would have been a little much. The flashback we saw with her training with Luke, beautiful.
Yes.
Just a little bit, not enough to say, hey, we're parading a weekend at Bernie's corpse here for your entertainment.
Mhm.
You know, weekend at Bernie's? Anybody out there? No?
I'm a fan. Now, another school of thought is, I think the third one is, because I to this day, I don't know about you, Ron, but to this day, I'm still creeped out whenever I see or watch Rogue One, a Star Wars. Oh, buffering. Okay, when I watch Rogue One, a Star Wars story, I'm still creeped out by the digital young Leia at the end of that movie. I still don't like it. I don't know about you.
I thought it was done well. I thought it was tasteful.
Really? Okay.
It's just one of those things. A small cameo like that. I mean, yeah, at the end of Rogue One, I mean, we're jumping movie to movie here. But I mean, at the end of Rogue One, when we saw Vader and his fury and everything like that, which is what a lot of people were really hoping to see.
Yeah.
How can you be at that time frame and not have Tarkin appear? How can you not have Leia appear? Because Rogue One ends right as Episode 4 begins. So
Yeah.
there has to be just a little bit of Leia, just a little bit.
But my point is that I'm glad that they don't go using that technology application full on to resurrect General Leia for Rise of Skywalker. You know, like
Oh,
having an actor and then have her face replaced digitally.
Oh no, I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
What they used, prior footage, discovered footage, however you want to define it there, the way they used it was very tastefully done. Scenes where they did not have an appropriate face shot or appropriate dialogue, and they used like an actor, over the shoulder shot. Again, very tasteful, very appropriate. It would have been over the top to have a whole lot of digitized General Leia.
Yeah.
Very over the top, unnecessary.
Yeah, I think we both agree on that. I want to ask, maybe I'm ignorant on this. Again, I'm just a fan of the movies. But prior to the film coming out, J.J. Abrams did reveal prior to the film coming out, like, oh yeah, we're gonna show you guys new aspects, new powers of the Force. So it's true, right? That one of the new powers of the Force is that healing power, correct, and resurrection power. And what did you think about that?
Well, here, let me push these back up on my face some more.
Yeah.
I'm a nerd. Dark Forces 2 Jedi Knight for the PC was kind of it explained a character that doesn't exist anymore, Kyle Katarn, and how he became a Jedi Knight. He was the Chuck Norris of the Star Wars expanded universe. Okay?
Nice.
Look it up, folks, if you get bored out there. Under Kyle Katarn's beard is another lightsaber, things like that. Okay, but one of the powers that they introduced in Dark Forces 2 is the ability for the light side of the Force to be able to heal. Now, it was a little more black and white. You couldn't be in between, but the ability to heal has been there, just like the ability to accelerate really quickly, like we saw in Episode 1 there when Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon made it away from destroyers.
Yep.
There are plenty of abilities out there that allow you to use the microscopic bacteria to manipulate the things around you.
Oh.
So it makes sense that if you can lift rocks, if you can influence the weak-minded, you guys like the movie, right? That's super cringy. Cut that out. I don't know. But my point is this.
Yeah.
If you're able to open doors, move rocks, inanimate objects, okay, why can you not affect the living world around you? Why can you not accelerate healing? Or in regards to that new power, the heal there, the ability to transfer a little bit of life force is what they described it as. So, I mean, if we were to relate it to a Dragon Ball Z power level, which, has no bearing on anything, just their power is this, that, and one of these and one of those. In order for Rey to have healed that snake or whatever, if she was at level 10,000, okay, and it costs her, 500. Okay, so she's at 9,500 as far as her midichlorian count or her ability to manipulate the Force, So I can understand that, the balance transfer idea that would allow them to heal. I mean, there's so many unexplored options out there that if you looked at the expanded universe, which Disney does from time to time, they pull out little bits and pieces just to tempt us expanded universe fans into coming over to their side of things. So I appreciate them finally factoring it in. Maybe a little more explanation to help the members of the fan base who just watch the films understand exactly what they saw there. Because when we had Mary Poppins Leia, everyone said, "What the hell is this?" That makes no sense at all. Because in the opening crawl or anything prior to, they didn't necessarily mention the fact that, hey, Leia did experience a little bit of Jedi training under Luke. They didn't explain any of that. So you had the Mary Poppins moment. My thoughts on that one too, and I mean, this is just because of me. Why didn't you grab Admiral Akbar while you were out there?
Yeah, right.
He was such a cool character, and then you had him go out like that.
I
now,
know.
when it happened, I thought, okay, so they killed Akbar, but they killed Leia too. Okay, that makes perfect sense because the actress is no longer with us.
So, I guess
back in, and then it was a little off, So they didn't really give any whatever you want to call that. It's great that it's there, but maybe just a touch more explanation, or have it featured more prominently moving forward, so people don't think it's a one-off weirdo ability.
So, correct me if I'm wrong. Kylo Ren ends up dying because he transferred his life force to Rey, right? And it takes a lot out of him, correct?
That's what I gathered.
Yeah,
that's what I gathered with that one, because we've got Rey glossy-eyed and down and out. Okay, so she was done. At least that's my interpretation of it at that point in time. Rey Palpatine, Rey no surname, Rey Skywalker died in that last push to eliminate the Sith from the galaxy, to eliminate Darth Plagueis, Sheev Palpatine, the Emperor, whatever you want to call him. She died in that combat right then and there.
Yeah. And
Ben Solo pulls himself from that crater, from that crack, and does what he saw Rey do for him. Because she already, and just using that round number again, from 10,000 to 9,500 to maybe another 4,000 of her life force to save Kylo after she dealt him a fatal blow. So at this point in time, she's running on empty.
Yeah.
She used everything she had left to fight Palpatine. So when Ben pulls himself up and transfers what he has left, he pretty much just gave her life back.
That's true. And Ben, aka Kylo Ren, is a fascinating character because I'm gonna be honest with you, Ron. Um, I was never one to root for Kylo because I love bad guys, I love villains,
Oh, absolutely.
people we love to hate. But then Kylo Ren in the previous films was depicted as this guy who has temper tantrum, like a little whiny little bitch. It's
Yes.
like that's not likable quality in my opinion. It's like a temper tantrum all the time. It's a temper tantrum show guy. But now he goes through this redemption evolution in the Rise of Skywalker, and he goes to the light side. What do you make of that evolution for Kylo Ren in this movie?
While Ben was a whiny little bitch, like you had said, and that's the way they portrayed him.
Yep.
If you take a look at yourself, if I take a look at myself, when you're younger, you act irrationally.
Mm.
You whether or not you really want to look at yourself and take stock of who you were as a person, you probably had a tantrum or two. Now, it wasn't laying on the ground kicking and screaming as a young adult, but you know what I mean?
I got
Maybe
you.
going back to your dorm room or going back to your house and
Or silent treatment.
yeah, exactly. Hey, this house is a prison on the planet bullshit. You know what I mean? You would do something like that. We all did.
Mm.
And so you have to look at it from the perspective that how much time has passed from Last Jedi to Rise of Skywalker. I don't know that one, and I'm kind of asking, but not really. I don't know how much time has passed, but you have to lend credence to the human condition that we do grow. And so from, granddaddy's not helping me, and Ben Swallow, which I was really hoping for a cameo for Ben Swallow. I was really hoping for it there.
Ben Swallow, I like that.
Okay, I was really hoping for something. Okay, but you have to look. Okay, with Ben Swallow and everything like that would have been great to see. But you have to understand too. If you look at him from Force Awakens to The Last Jedi, from being second or third banana there, to all of a sudden having to shoulder the First Order as a whole to keep everybody moving together, it makes sense to me that he has matured to the point where he has gotten past the temper tantrums, where he has a better understanding of the dark side of the Force, how to tempt and hurt and bring those emotions forward, the passion and things of that nature that don't exist in the light side of the Force. So it makes a lot of sense to me.
And then the turning point is when Rey healed him. She didn't have to do that. And so he was like, wow, why would, you did that for me. That's, so that's his turning point, I think.
Definitely. I mean, if you really wanted to relate it to something, it's like the shelter animal that you bring home and that you try to be nice to, but it takes a very, very specific moment, a very special moment between the two in order to bring them around.
Mm.
And so I think that was, like you said, that was that turning point. That was that moment where Ben goes, well, okay, maybe I've been approaching this wrong.
Now, okay, our time is coming to almost to an end here. Before we conclude, I want to tell you and the viewers at home that back in 2015, I attended the press junket for The Force Awakens, and I asked Kathleen Kennedy, the mic was given to me, I was like, hey, so did you guys have it all mapped out for the entire trilogy, or are you guys tackling this one film at a time? And then Kathleen Kennedy didn't want to give spoilers, so she was like walking on eggshells, around eggshells with her answer. But I think I mentioned to you this at the screening before the film started, that it would have been best if J.J. Abrams had handled the entire trilogy without skipping a beat. I think the whole thing with Rian Johnson coming in, and giving, whatever you feel like about The Last Jedi, hate it or love it, that kind of gives the whole trilogy some sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Disjointed feel to it, as opposed to something that's smooth sailing, like it's all planned out kind of thing. But at the same time, if you remember, guys, Lucasfilm or Kathleen Kennedy fired Phil Lord and Oh, no, that's Solo Star Wars story. She fired Colin Trevorrow, and I think she also fired another filmmaker as well. So there's this also question like, what do you want to bring in new vision to the trilogy or not? Like, what do you want to have planned? Like, or do you have no plan at all in the beginning? What are your thoughts about that?
The disjointed term that you chose to use, I think, fits.
Right.
Excellent. It definitely. Last Jedi had a very different tone than The Force Awakens. And those movies themselves, Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and Rise of Skywalker, also have a very different tone than New Hope, Empire, Jedi. You know, it's what happens when you change a director.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely feel that the way this one could have been handled and should have been handled was to leave JJ in charge of all three.
Yes.
The same vision to make it happen for all of the movies. So, I mean, with that said, if you saw the Kill Bill movies, I'm sure you have.
Mm-hmm.
What if we pulled Quentin Tarantino out of the middle in one of them and put in Ron Howard?
No.
Okay. Tell me it wouldn't have changed. While there would have been a similar script and similar characters we would have all been familiar with, it would have really changed the overall tone of the trilogy.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong, Kill Bill wasn't a trilogy, or was it? I don't remember.
Volume 1 and 2.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say, I feel like, did I miss one? No, I didn't. Okay.
No worries.
It would have been very different.
Yes.
With that said, Force Awakens had a very specific tone. The Last Jedi had a very specific tone. And then we get to Rise of Skywalker, which has a similar tone, although slightly more action-packed than The Force Awakens. You know, but Force Awakens and the Rise of Skywalker, you can definitely see a very similar style in the way it was directed. Now, The Last Jedi had its flaws, but it also had its high points.
Yeah.
You know, but you didn't invite me here to talk about that one. You invited me to talk about Rise of Skywalker.
No worries.
So with that said, when you had the opportunity to ask Kathleen Kennedy you had that opportunity to say, hey, did you guys make this all up as you go, or do we have a roadmap?
Yeah.
And she danced around it. You have to look at that as damage control, obviously. If she said, we've got it all planned out, the internet will run wild with it. Hey, we're making it up as we go, the internet's going to run wild with it. So you kind of have to pick and choose which side you want to go with. And so to err on the side of caution, you lean into the mic and you say, no comment.
No comment, yeah.
It's the way to handle that. But as far as the directors go, Rian Johnson provided a very unique take on the Star Wars universe and the story he had to tell. I applaud him for taking the reins and making something happen for me. My point is this: the first three movies had a particular tone. The second three movies had a particular tone, and these last three have a particular tone. So to relate that to what we have going on here, the first trilogy and the last trilogy have a very similar tone, like what we have here in the final with JJ on one and JJ on the last and Rian in the middle. It, in a way, it plays to the way Star Wars has played out. In a way, it definitely works. It creates a very different tone in the middle, like you said, but in a way, it all fits.
Okay, it just popped in my head. I don't have it on my note. I want to pick your brain, just this one final point. I feel like this trilogy, 7, 8, 9, did not do as good a job of incorporating Poe and Finn into the overarching arc as the episodes 4, 5, 6. They did a good job incorporating Han Solo and Leia into the overarching arc, because 7, 8, 9 ultimately it's a Rey and Kylo Ren story, just like in 4, 5, 6 it's a Luke versus Darth Vader story, but I think that Han and Leia in 4, 5, 6 they were more involved, whereas in this Rise of Skywalker, as you may have noticed, Poe and Finn, they become more like an afterthought. Like, we're gonna give a couple of scenes of Poe flying and a couple of scenes of Finn, trying to throw bombs or grenades in, and that's it.
Well, yeah, no, I can definitely see where that viewpoint. I can definitely see where that point of view comes from.
Yeah.
Where Poe and Finn were tertiary characters at this point.
Right.
I definitely feel like more attention was paid to 3PO.
Mm-hmm.
And his plight to recover his memory, than Poe and Finn. But that also lends to the fan service theory about Episode 9. Look, I don't have anything against Poe. I don't have anything against Finn, Rose, any of those other folks hiding in the background. I didn't have a problem with them existing or contributing ever a lot. Or I didn't have a problem with Poe or Finn or Rose in the background and what they were contributing to the film. But I think because this is a fan service type of movie there, you want to see it all wrap up. I want to make sure 3PO gets his happy ending. I want to make sure that we know exactly where Rey came from. I want to see what the Force ghosts, if any, who come forward, what they've got to say or what they're going to do. And oh, crap on a crutch on one of those, man. There's a list out there of the voices of the Jedi who came before, who spoke to Rey. And that's definitely something, folks out there, if you haven't had a chance to look at, because that also ties up some really big loose ends that people were expecting to see in this movie.
Yes.
But yeah, were they secondary characters? Were they in the background? Did they not spend as much time on them? You're absolutely right. But they weren't as important overall to the story, in my opinion, as finishing up with Ben and Rey and Leia and Luke and Frank Oz reprising his role as Yoda.
Yeah.
All those things were really important to make sure it got wrapped up.
Well,
I've got buffering.
no, we're good. We're good. Ron, man, I cannot thank you enough. I appreciate your knowledge. You dropped some awesome wisdom to us, Star Wars knowledge, man. So thank you so much for being here, for participating on the spoiler talk. And thank you to all the viewers at home for tuning in. And till the next video, let's rock this.